1966 FIFA World Cup, the tournament many in Latin America called the Stolen World Cup. When football fans remember the 1966 FIFA World Cup, they usually think of two things: England's only World Cup triumph and Geoff Hurst's controversial goal in the final against West Germany. For England, it remains the greatest moment in the nation's football history. But in many parts of Latin America, the tournament is remembered very differently. For decades, players, journalists, and supporters from Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Portugal have argued that the 1966 World Cup was one of the most controversial tournaments ever played. They believe that a combination of questionable refereeing decisions, poor treatment of visiting teams, and favorable circumstances for the hosts helped pave England's path to the title. Whether these claims were the result of genuine bias or simply the emotions of defeated teams remains a matter of debate. What is undeniable is that the 1966 World Cup left behind a legacy of controversy that still sparks discussion today. Brazil, the fall of the defending champions. Brazil arrived in England as the reigning world champions, having won both the 1958 and 1962 World Cups. Led by Pelé, many expected them to challenge for a third consecutive title. Their campaign began with a victory over Bulgaria, but the match exposed a major problem. Pelé was repeatedly fouled throughout the game and suffered injuries due to the physical treatment he received from defenders. The injuries forced him to miss Brazil's second group match against Hungary. Brazil lost 3-1, and Brazilian officials were furious with several refereeing decisions during the game. They felt key moments had gone against them and believed they were not receiving fair treatment. Pelé returned for the decisive match against Portugal, but disaster struck early. Portuguese defender João Morais delivered a brutal challenge that left Pelé barely able to move. Despite clearly struggling, Pelé attempted to continue because substitutions were not allowed at the time. Morais later committed another heavy foul on the Brazilian star, yet received no significant punishment from the referee. Unable to influence the game, Pelé spent much of the match limping around the field as a spectator in his own team's defeat. Portugal won 3-1, eliminating Brazil from the tournament. Years later, Pelé admitted that the experience left him deeply disillusioned. "I came back thinking I would never play football again." For many Brazilians, 1966 symbolized the failure of FIFA and referees to protect the world's greatest player. Argentina, the theft of the century. If Brazil felt wronged, Argentina believed they had been outright robbed. The problems reportedly began even before the tournament started. Argentine officials complained about poor training facilities, claiming that some grounds lacked proper equipment. They also criticized logistical arrangements and accommodation issues. The controversy intensified during Argentina's group stage match against West Germany. In a baffling decision, Argentine defender Rafael Albrecht was sent off after only 25 minutes. Players, spectators, and even journalists struggled to understand the reason behind the dismissal. But the biggest controversy came in the quarter-final against England at Wembley Stadium. The match was fiercely contested, and England found it difficult to break down the Argentine defense. Then, in the 35th minute, German referee Rudolf Kreitlein sent off Argentina captain Antonio Ratten. The official claimed Ratten had shown disrespect and used offensive language. However, the Argentine captain did not speak German, and the referee did not speak Spanish. The communication breakdown created chaos. Ratten refused to leave the field immediately because he genuinely did not understand why he had been dismissed. The incident delayed the match and became one of the most famous controversies in World Cup history. Playing with 10 men, Argentina eventually lost 1-0. The anger did not end there. Many Argentines also questioned the legality of Geoff Hurst's winning goal, arguing that he may have been offside during the build-up. Argentine newspapers famously labeled the match El Robo del Siglo, the theft of the century. After the final whistle, furious Argentine players attempted to confront the referee, who reportedly required police protection to leave the stadium safely. The bitterness from that match would linger for decades. Uruguay, confusion and frustration. Uruguay's World Cup also ended in controversy. During their quarter-final against West Germany, 2 Uruguayan players were sent off by the referee. Uruguayan players later claimed they struggled to understand the referee's decisions and the reasoning behind them. Julio Cortez and others argued that officiating standards appeared inconsistent and confusing. Many Uruguayan observers believed the referees were making decisions arbitrarily, further strengthening the perception that Latin American teams were not receiving equal treatment. Portugal, the unexpected obstacle. Portugal, led by the legendary Eusebio, were one of the tournament's most exciting teams. After defeating Brazil and reaching the semi-finals, they were expected to face England under fair conditions. Instead, controversy emerged once again. Portugal's semi-final was originally expected to be played in Liverpool. However, the match was moved to Wembley Stadium in London. This decision forced Portugal to undertake a lengthy journey on short notice, while England had already been based near Wembley and faced no such disruption. Portuguese officials felt disadvantaged by the sudden change. They argued that England benefited from familiarity with the venue and avoided the exhausting travel their opponents were forced to endure. Despite a heroic performance from Eusebio, who scored a penalty and nearly inspired a comeback, Portugal lost 2-1. Complaints from the Portuguese camp were largely ignored, adding another chapter to the tournament's growing list of England's road to glory. England ultimately defeated West Germany 4-2 after extra time in the final. The match produced one of the most famous moments in football history. With the score tied at 2-2, Geoff Hurst struck a powerful shot that hit the underside of the crossbar and bounced near the goal line. Soviet linesman Tofik Baramov advised the referee that the ball had crossed the line, and the goal was awarded. To this day, football historians continue to debate whether the entire ball actually crossed the line. The decision helped England secure the World Cup and became one of the sport's most enduring controversies. The Latin American view. Across Latin America, many fans came to see the 1966 World Cup as a tournament shaped by favoritism toward the host nation. The eliminations of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Portugal all featured major disputes involving refereeing decisions, scheduling, travel arrangements, or disciplinary actions. Restrictions on media access and tensions between FIFA and Latin American football authorities only intensified suspicions. Years later, João Havelange, who served as FIFA president from 1974 to 1998, claimed that the 1966 and 1974 World Cups contained serious irregularities, though no definitive evidence has ever proven a conspiracy. The revenge of 1986. 20 years later, England and Argentina met in another World Cup quarter-final. This time, Diego Maradona became the central figure. His infamous "Hand of God" goal helped Argentina defeat England on the way to winning the World Cup in Mexico. For many Argentinians, it felt like football history coming full circle. While the world remembers Maradona's handball as one of football's greatest controversies, some in Argentina viewed it differently, not as cheating, but as poetic revenge for what they believed had happened 20 years earlier at Wembley. Conclusion. The 1966 FIFA World Cup remains one of the most debated tournaments in football history. For England, it was the nation's greatest sporting triumph. For many in Latin America, it was a tournament marked by controversial refereeing, disputed decisions, and lingering questions about fairness. The truth may never be fully known. But 60 years later, the arguments surrounding England 1966 continue to remind football fans that history is often written very differently depending on which side of the story you stand.